The rain hammered the windshield like it had a personal grudge, turning the streets of Seattle into a slick, unforgiving maze. I slammed the car door behind me, umbrella forgotten in the passenger seat, and sprinted up the steps to Elijah Thorne's brownstone in Capitol Hill, my shirt already plastered to my skin. As I fumbled with the spare key, the door swung open from the inside, and there he was, not my boss, but a stranger with storm cloud eyes and a scowl that could curdle milk, blocking the entryway like he owned the shadows. "Who the hell are you?" he growled, voice low and gravelly, arms crossed over a faded flannel shirt that smelled faintly of pine and regret. I froze, water dripping from my chin, heart pounding not just from the dash, but from the way his gaze sliced through me, sharp as the Pacific wind. "I'm Finn Harper," I stammered, "the cat sitter. Elijah asked me to." But before I could finish, he stepped aside with a huff, muttering something about family obligations and bad timing that hung in the air like smoke. That first night in Elijah's house felt like stepping into someone else's half-written memoir, all polished edges and unspoken fractures. The place was a testament to his success as a mid-level exec at that flashy tech firm downtown. Sleek leather couches, abstract art on the walls that probably cost more than my rent, and floor-to-ceiling windows framing the relentless Seattle drizzle. But it was the cat that grounded it all. Whiskers, this sleek black tabby with eyes like polished obsidian, who greeted me with a lazy flick of her tail from her perch on the kitchen island. Elijah had texted me that afternoon, voice note crackling with his usual clipped efficiency. "Finn, emergency board meeting in Portland. Can you handle Whiskers for the weekend? Double your rate. I need this." I needed the cash more than I needed to say no. At 28, I was scraping by on freelance graphic design gigs and the occasional barista shift at that hole-in-the-wall cafe in Fremont. Elijah, 35, impeccably tailored, with a jawline that screamed boardroom battles, had hired me 6 months back to spruce up his company's branding. We'd kept it professional, him all charm and calculated compliments, me nursing a quiet crush that I buried under layers of sarcasm. Babysitting his cat? Harmless favor. Or so I thought. The stranger, Hunter, as I'd learn later, was sprawled on the couch when I shook off my jacket, whiskers weaving between my ankles like she sensed the tension. He was Elijah's younger brother, 25 and built like he spent his days chopping wood in some forgotten Cascade forest. Broad shoulders, tousled dark hair that fell just shy of his collar, and a 5 o'clock shadow that made his brooding expression even more magnetic. He nursed a beer, label peeling under his thumb, and didn't bother standing when I extended a hand. "Hunter Thorne," he said flatly, eyes flicking to my soaked shirt before returning to the muted TV screen flickering with some old western. Elijah forgot to mention company. Or maybe he just didn't care. I laughed, a nervous bark that echoed too loud in the high-ceilinged living room. Forgot to mention the cat, more like, "She's the real VIP here." I scooped up Whiskers, who purred obligingly, her warmth a small anchor against the chill seeping through the walls. "Want some coffee? Or are you more of a brooding in silence type?" His lip twitched, almost a smile, but it died quick. "Coffee sounds like a plan. Black, and less small talk." Upstairs in the kitchen, the rain pattered against the glass like impatient fingers, and I busied myself with the espresso machine, stealing glances at him as he leaned against the counter. Hunter moved like he was conserving energy for a fight that hadn't started yet, every shift deliberate. There was a scar above his left eyebrow, faint but telling, and his hands, calloused, knuckles dusted with faint ink stains, clenched the mug I handed him like it might shatter. He caught me looking, and for a beat, the air thickened, charged with something unspoken. "So, what brings the grumpy ghost to Seattle's finest bachelor pad?" I asked, leaning on the island, Whiskers batting at a stray coaster. "Family reunion gone wrong?" He took a slow sip, eyes narrowing over the rim. "Something like that. Elijah thinks I need structure. After the mess back in Ridge Valley. You know the type, big brother swoops in, fixes everything with his fancy job and his perfect life." Ridge Valley. The name conjured images of those sleepy eastern Washington towns, all dusty roads and endless wheat fields, far from the neon buzz of the city. I nodded, sensing the weight behind his words. Mess. Huh? Sounds like there's a story there. But I get it. Mine involves a string of exes who ghosted faster than you can say passive-aggressive text. Hunter's gaze softened, just a fraction, like a crack in granite. Exes. Yeah. They tend to do that when you don't fit the script. He set the mug down, fingers lingering on the handle. What about you, Finn? Babysitting cats for tech bros. That's your script? Ouch. I winced, but there was heat in it, the good kind that prickles your skin. Not exactly. More like improvising. Life hands you a leaky umbrella in a downpour. You dance in it. Or flirt with strangers in flannel. He snorted, a real laugh this time, rough around the edges. Flirt. Huh? Bold move for a cat whisperer. The word hung there, playful yet loaded, and I felt my pulse kick up, the room shrinking to just us and the steam curling from our mugs. Whiskers leaped down, vanishing into the shadows, leaving us to this tentative orbit. We talked then, halting at first, about the rain that never quit, the Mariners game head caught on the drive over, my disastrous attempt at surfing in Westport last summer. He loosened up by the second beer, stories spilling out in fragments. Growing up in Ridge Valley with Elijah as the golden child. Him the wild one who dropped out of community college to chase tattoos and odd jobs. There was a boyfriend mentioned in passing, voice dipping low. Some guy named Cole who'd bailed when things got real, leaving Hunter with a busted heart and a one-way ticket to Elijah's doorstep. I shared too, more than I meant to, about my folks in Maine, the quiet divorce that splintered everything when I was 16, coming out in a town where rainbows were just for parades. By midnight, the rain had eased to a murmur, and we were on the balcony, city lights smudging the horizon like watercolor. He bumped my shoulder with his accidental on purpose. You're not what I expected, Finn. Most people around here, they're all surface. Yeah. I turned, close enough to catch the faint cedar of his cologne mixed with rain. And you're all depth. Dangerous combo. His breath hitched, and for a heartbeat, I thought head lean in, lips brushing, hands finding waists in that electric way beginnings ignite. But he pulled back, jaw tightening. Elijah, I'll be back tomorrow. This, whatever this is, probably a bad idea. The rejection stung, sharp and sweet, but I played it cool, heart thumping like bass in a dive bar. Probably. But cats don't judge, and neither do I. He left me there with that half-smile, retreating to the guest room upstairs, door clicking shut like a period at the end of a sentence. I crashed on the couch, whiskers curling against my chest, her purr a lullaby against the what-ifs swirling in my head. Sleep came fitful, dreams tangled with flannel and storm eyes, the kind that leave you waking with a hollow ache. Morning broke gray and insistent, coffee brewing as I scrolled Elijah's detailed notes on Whisker's feeding schedule. The door to the guest room creaked open, Hunter emerging in yesterday's jeans, hair sleep-tousled, looking every bit the reluctant heartbreaker. Morning, he mumbled, avoiding my eyes as he poured a cup. Slept like a rock? I teased, sliding a plate of toast his way, toast with avocado because Seattle. Like the dead. You? He glanced up then, and there it was again, that pull, magnetic and messy. Dreamed of grumpy brothers and rainy escapes. I winked, bold in the daylight, and he chuckled, low and warm, the sound settling in my bones. We fell into an easy rhythm that day, the house our unwitting stage. I worked from the dining table, tweaking logos for a craft beer client, while he tinkered with a sketchpad head pulled from his duffel. Rough lines of mountains and faces that hinted at untapped talent. Whiskers supervised from her throne, batting at pencils that rolled too close. Lunch was takeout pho from that spot on Broadway, steam rising as we dissected Elijah's latest promotion email. Him the hero of some algorithm revolution. He's always been the fixer, Hunter said, slurping noodles with unapologetic gusto. Me? Am the project that never quite finishes. I set my bowl down, meeting his gaze steady. Projects like that, they're the ones worth the long haul. Depth. Remember? His fork paused mid-air, and the air hummed, charged with the unspoken. Tell me more about Maine, he said instead, deflecting with a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. The coast. Does it really look like those postcards? We talked for hours, the afternoon slipping away in stories swapped like secrets. My summers clamming on the rocky shores. His rogue camping trips in the Olympics where heads stare at stars until they blurred. By evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the living room in bruised purples, we were shoulder to shoulder on the couch, a forgotten documentary droning about Pacific Northwest lore. His hand brushed mine, reaching for the remote, and neither of us moved it away. Finn, he murmured, voice rough as gravel, I haven't. This feels real, I supplied, turning to face him, our knees knocking. Yeah. Terrifyingly so. He searched my face, thumb tracing the back of my hand in a feather-light promise. Elijah's world, it's not mine. But you're making me want to try. The kiss, when it came, was inevitable. A slow burn igniting in the dim light, his lips firm and tasting of salt and hesitation. My fingers threaded into his hair, pulling him closer, the world narrowing to the heat of his mouth, the way he sighed against me like surrender. Whiskers meowed protest from the floor, breaking the spell, but we laughed into it, foreheads pressed together, breaths mingling. That night, we didn't sleep apart. The guest room became ours, sheets twisting as hands explored, whispers mapping scars and dreams. Hunter was all contrasts, gruff edges softening to tender touches, his body solid and yielding under mine. We moved like we'd been waiting for this script, the rain outside a symphony to our rhythm. Afterward, tangled and spent, he traced patterns on my chest, voice hushed. Don't let me screw this up, Finn. I kissed his temple, tasting the salt of his skin. We write our own endings. But dawn brought Elijah's key in the lock, his voice booming from the foyer. Finn? Whiskers. Portland was a nightmare, and reality crashed in like a wave on jagged rocks. Elijah strode into the kitchen like he owned the narrative, which, in a way, he did. This was his domain, his cat, his life meticulously curated. He was all pressed chinos and crisp button-down, briefcase thumping onto the counter as he scooped Whiskers into his arms, cooing at her with the affection that bordered on performative. Finn, you are a lifesaver. She looks positively spoiled. Portland traffic was hell. Tell me you didn't burn the place down. I stirred sugar into my coffee, hyper-aware of Hunter lingering in the doorway, his posture casual but his eyes guarded, like a wolf scenting danger. All good here, boss. Whiskers ruled with an iron paw. No casualties. Elijah laughed, that polished bark of his, clapping me on the shoulder a beat too long. Good man. Double pay incoming, Venmo tonight. He turned then, spotting his brother, expression shifting to something between fondness and fatigue. Hunter, didn't expect you to stick around. Thought you'd bolt for the hills by now. Hunter shrugged, pouring cereal into a bowl with deliberate nonchalance. Roads were shit. Figured I'd weather it out. He met my gaze across the room, a flicker of heat there that made my stomach twist. Our secret, fragile as morning mist. Elijah nodded, oblivious, rummaging in the fridge for oat milk. Smart call. We should catch up later. Dinner? My treat. Been too long since we did brother stuff. The invitation hung, laced with subtext I couldn't quite parse, but Hunter accepted with a grunt, and just like that, the weekend pivoted. Elijah insisted I join. You're practically family now, Finn. His arms slung around my shoulders in that avuncular way that always left me off balance. We ended up at this waterfront spot in Belltown, all exposed brick and craft cocktails, the sound glittering under sodium lights as ferries cut ghost trails across the water. Conversation flowed like the Pinot Noir Elijah ordered. Smooth, with undercurrents. He dominated, regaling us with boardroom conquests. The latest app his team was beta testing for mood tracking via wearables. Hunter picked at his salmon, interjecting dry quips that had me biting back laughs. Our feet brushing under the table in coded Morse. Elijah noticed the ease between us, attributing it to shared outsider status. You two get along like old pals. Hunter's not usually this chatty. Hunter smirked, spearing a forkful of greens. Blame the cat. She's a conversationalist. Elijah chuckled, but his eyes lingered, appraising. The meal stretched, plates cleared to tiramisu and espresso. The city's hum filtering through open windows, horns blaring, laughter spilling from nearby bars. As we walked back, arms loose with wine, Elijah peeled off toward his gym routine, leaving Hunter and me to the shadowed streets. The air was crisp, laced with salt and exhaust, and we fell into step, shoulders grazing. That was intense, I said, breath fogging. Your brother's like a TED Talk on steroids. He's always been the star, Hunter replied, hands shoved deep in pockets. Me? I'm the understudy who forgets lines. But tonight felt almost normal. Normal with a side of stolen glances. I bumped his hip, grinning. He'll take it, as long as it comes with more of this. We detoured through a pocket park, benches slick with dew, the Space Needle looming like a skeletal sentinel. He pulled me onto one, our thighs pressing warm, and kissed me there, fierce, unapologetic, tongues tangling with the urgency of borrowed time. My back hit the wood slats, his weight a welcome anchor, hands roaming under jackets to map collarbones and ribs. The world blurred. Distant sirens, rustle of leaves, the thud of my heart echoing his. We broke apart gasping, foreheads touching, his whisper ragged. This you? It's messing with my head, Finn. In a good way, scary good. I cupped his face, thumb stroking that scar above his brow. Scary's just the prelude to epic. Stick around for the plot twist. He did. For the next few days, the house a cocoon of stolen moments. Mornings, I'd brew coffee while he sketched at the table, lines evolving from abstract peaks to subtle portraits. My profile emerging in charcoal smudges. We'd take Whiskers for walks along the Burke-Gilman Trail, her leash a flimsy excuse for lingering handholds amid joggers and dog walkers. Elijah was a ghost, buried in meetings, texting check-ins that Hunter fielded with vague affirmations. But cracks showed. Late one night, after a particularly heated tangle in the guest room. Bodies slick, breaths sinking in the dark, Hunter went quiet, staring at the ceiling fan whirring lazy circles. What's eating you? I asked, propping on an elbow, tracing the freckles across his nose. He sighed. Heavy. Cole, my ex. He texted today. Wants to meet up, clear the air. Says he misses the Ridge Valley version of me. The one who didn't question everything. I swallowed, the jealousy spiking hot. And? You gonna play the prodigal? No. Hell no. But it stirs shit up. Elijah's always pushing me to go back. Fix things with the family. Dad had that stroke last year. Mom's holding the farm together with prayers and spite. They don't get it, me, us. Never have. The vulnerability hit like a gut punch, his voice cracking on us. I pulled him close, lips to his temple. Families are like bad drafts, full of plot holes. You don't owe them revisions. Not if it costs you this. He nodded against my shoulder, but sleep evaded us, the rain resuming its tattoo on the roof. Morning brought Elijah home early, bursting with news. A promotion, corner office, the works. Celebration dinner at his club. Black tie optional but expected. Hunter's face fell, but he masked it quick. Congrats, bro. You earned it. The club was old money incarnate. Polished mahogany, crystal decanters, views of Elliott Bay where yachts bobbed like forgotten promises. Elijah preened under the spotlight, colleagues toasting his ascent, while Hunter and I nursed whiskeys at the bar, exchanging loaded looks across the crowd. "You clean up nice," I murmured when he sidled up, his suit hugging lines ID memorized bare. "Says the guy who makes slacks look sinful," he shot back, fingers grazing my wrist under the bar top. Elijah found us eventually, arm around Hunter's shoulders in a bear hug that lingered possessive. "So proud of you sticking it out, little bro. This sit'll toughen you up." He turned to me, eyes sharpening. "Finn, you're the glue here. Keep him in line, yeah?" The words landed odd, laced with something proprietary, and Hunter's jaw ticked. "I'm not a project, Elijah." His brother blinked, laugh forced. "Easy, Hunt. Just looking out." The toast that followed was effusive. Elijah at the podium spinning yarns of brotherly bonds forged in Ridge Valley dirt. But as glasses clinked, Hunter's hand found mine under the table, squeezing tight, a lifeline in the farce. Later, in the valet line, Elijah clapped my back again. "Too firm. Appreciate you, Finn. Really. But Hunter's fragile right now. Don't complicate things." The warning slithered cold, but I nodded, smile tight. Wouldn't dream of it. Back at the house, Elijah crashed early, jet-lagged from a follow-up call. Hunter and I slipped to the balcony, city sprawl a glittering distraction. "What the hell was that?" I asked, voice low. "He's protecting me. From myself, mostly." Hunter leaned on the railing, profile etched in moonlight. "Thinks my flings are symptoms, not choices. Gay in Ridge Valley? That's a phase to outgrow." Rage flickered hot, but I banked it, pulling him into my arms. "He's wrong. You're not a phase, you're the whole damn story." We made love there, urgent and quiet, against the chill glass, his moans muffled in my neck as release washed over us like tide. Dawn found us spent, whiskers pawing at the door, but the idol fractured when Hunter's phone buzzed. Cole again, insistent. "Meet me. One drink. For old times." He stared at the screen, thumb hovering. "I should end it clean." "Go," I said, heart sinking but steady. "Closure ain't betrayal." He kissed me fierce, promising return, but hours stretched empty. I paced the kitchen, whiskers watching with feline judgment, until Elijah wandered in, tie loosened. "Hunter bail? Figures. Kid can't commit to a parking spot." "He's meeting an ex," I admitted, words tumbling, clearing air. Elijah's face darkened, pouring scotch neat. "Cole, that drifter. Hunter's better off. But you stay out of it, Finn. This family's mess enough without." "Without what?" I pressed, pulse thundering. His eyes bored in, voice dropping. "Without you playing therapist. Or more." The implication landed like a slap, and I reeled, the flirtation we'd danced around now a minefield. But before I could retort, the door flew open, Hunter, drenched and wild-eyed, Cole's words echoing in his posture. "It was a mistake," he gasped, pulling me aside. "He wants the old me back. Closeted. Quiet. But I told him about you." Elijah overheard, storming in. "What the hell, Hunter? You're diving headfirst into another disaster?" The room ignited, brothers clashing, voices rising like thunderheads. "You don't get to dictate my life," Hunter roared, fists clenched. "Not anymore." Elijah whirled on me, accusation blazing. "And you knew this was coming? Stirring shit for kicks?" "It wasn't like that." I started, but he cut me off, face twisted in betrayal. "Get out, Finn. Both of you, before you drag us all under." The door slammed behind us, rain swallowing our footsteps, Hunter's hand in mine the only warmth in the deluge. We drove in silence to my cramped apartment in Ballard, the wipers slashing frantic arcs. Inside, dripping and defeated, he collapsed on my futon, head in hands. "I ruined everything." "No," I whispered, kneeling before him, fingers in his hair. You chose yourself. That's everything. We held on through the night, bodies entwined against the storm, but dawn brought the reckoning. Elijah's texts. We need to talk. Family first. And in that phrase, the weight of worlds colliding, pulling us toward the edge. My apartment was a far cry from Elijah's polished sanctuary. A one-bedroom walk-up with creaky floors, posters of indie bands peeling at the corners, and a kitchenette that doubled as a cat haven now that Whiskers had hitched a ride in Hunter's duffel, her carrier a reluctant passenger in our midnight exodus. The rain had followed us to Ballard, drumming on the tin roof like an impatient audience, and as Hunter paced the living room, phone clutched like a grenade, I brewed tea chamomile, for the nerves we both pretended not to have. He finally answered Elijah's call, speaker on so I could hear the fallout. The line crackled with static and tension. Hunt, what the fuck? Elijah's voice was raw, stripped of its executive sheen. You ghost me for some bar crawl with Cole, then waltz in with this? With Finn? It wasn't a crawl, Hunter shot back, sinking onto the futon, eyes locked on mine. It was closure. And Finn's not this. He's real. Pause heavy as lead. Real. Jesus, you're 25, not 15. Remember last time? Cole had you chasing ghosts in that shithole town. Dropping everything for what? Heartbreak and a tattoo you regret? I winced, the scar on his brow suddenly vivid. But Hunter pressed on, voice steadying. That was then. This is me choosing not to run. Elijah laughed, bitter and broken. Choosing, right? Like you chose the shop job that tanked or the art school dropout. Dad would roll over if he heard. His boy, the fighter, wasting away in some city fling. The jab landed, Hunter's face paling, but he gripped my knee anchor firm. Dad's stroke wasn't my fault. And neither is this. You want to fix me? Start with trusting I know my own damn heart. The call ended abrupt. Elijah's goodbye a slammed receiver echo. Hunter tossed the phone, burying his face in his hands. He's not wrong. About the patterns. I bolt when it gets deep, always have. Hey. I slid beside him, cupping his jaw, forcing those gray eyes to meet mine. Patterns break. That's what we do, rewrite the script. One page at a time. He leaned in, kissed soft and seeking, a balm against the bruise. We spent the day cocooned, Whiskers exploring her new turf with imperious swats at dust bunnies, while we mapped tentative futures over takeout burritos. Him maybe crashing here while job hunting, me pitching bolder designs to agencies downtown. Laughter crept in, fragile but real, as we binge-watched old noir films on my laptop, his head on my thigh, fingers tracing lazy hearts on my skin. But evening brought the knock. Elijah, soaked and somber on my doorstep, a bottle of bourbon in hand like an olive branch forged in fire. Can I come in? Just talk. Hunter tensed from the couch, but nodded, and I stepped aside, the air thickening with unspoken indictments. Elijah entered wary, eyes scanning the space. My sketches pinned to walls, the half-read novel on the coffee table, as if cataloging flaws. Nice setup, he said, voice neutral. Cozy. Cut the crap, Hunter muttered, pouring 3 fingers into mismatched glasses. You didn't trek through a monsoon for interior design notes. Elijah sank into a chair, rubbing his temples. Fair. Look, I overreacted. The promotion has got me wired. And seeing you with Finn, it hit old nerves. Cole wrecked you, Hunt. I just don't want that rerun. Hunter handed him a glass, sitting across with guarded poise. Finn's not Cole. He's steady. Sees me, the mess and all. Elijah's gaze flicked to me, appraising anew. Steady. Huh? I sipped my bourbon, burns steadying my pulse. Elijah, I get it. Protective big brother. But Hunter's not a kid anymore. And what happened between us? It wasn't planned. It just was. He nodded slow, swirling amber liquid. Was past tense? Or present? Hunter interjected, hand finding mine across the armrest. And future, if you'll let it. The room held breath, Elijah's face a war of loyalty and loss. Finally, he exhaled, setting the glass down. All right, but ground rules. No drama at work, Finn, you're still on my team. And Hunter, therapy. Real shit, not sketches and spite. They'll pay. Hunter bristled, but I squeezed his hand. Compromise, not chains. Deal, I said, for us. One step. Elijah left with a hug for his brother, stiff but sincere, and a nod my way that felt like truce. Progress. But as the door clicked shut, Hunter pulled me close, lips crashing urgent. Thank you, he breathed against my neck, for not letting me bolt. We celebrated in whispers and touches, the futon creaking under us, bodies sinking in a rhythm that drowned the doubts. Afterward, sated and tangled, he murmured dreams. Enrolling in night classes at the community college, maybe illustrating children's books with queer heroes amid the wheat fields. I held him tighter, my own ambitions sharpening. Pitching that graphic novel idea, the one about a Maine boy finding his color in the gray. Days blurred into a rhythm, tentative but intoxicating. Hunter landed a gig at a tattoo parlor in Pioneer Square, inking intricate sleeves while I hustled designs from coffee shops. Our evenings a mosaic of shared meals and slow dances in the kitchen to lo-fi playlists. Whiskers claimed the windowsill as throne, batting at raindrops like personal foes. Elijah checked in weekly. Dinners that eased from awkward to almost familial, his barbs softening to banter. But the idol cracked on a crisp October Friday, Hunter late from the shop, my texts unanswered. Worry gnawed as I paced, until his key scraped the lock. Face ashen, knuckles bruised. What happened? I pulled him in, door slamming. Client went south, he muttered, collapsing beside Whiskers, who headbutt his palm. Some frat bro mouthing off about fags in the chair next. I lost it, punched the mirror. Boss sent me home. Rage and ache twisted in my gut. Idiots like that, their noise. Your signal. He shook his head, eyes distant. It's not just that. Cole showed up at the shop, begging another shot. Said head move here, make it work if I toned it down. For the family. The word family slithered, venomous. And I told him to fuck off. But it stirred. Elijah called right after. Heard about the fight. Wants me gone. Back to Ridge Valley to dry out and straighten up. No. The word escaped fierce, my hands framing his face. You're not going anywhere. He searched my eyes, vulnerability raw. What if I am poison? Dragging you into thorn drama? Then we detox together. I kissed him then, fierce and claiming, pouring every unspoken vow into it. But as night deepened, his phone lit with Elijah's name again. Insistent, unyielding, and the call he took in the bedroom leaked fragments. Dad's worse. Needs you home. This city's killing you. He emerged hollow-eyed, bag half-packed. Just for the weekend. Check on him. Clear my head. Go, I said, throat tight. But come back. To this. To us. He nodded, kiss lingering like goodbye, and the door shut soft, leaving silence that echoed too loud. I curled with Whiskers, her purr a poor substitute, the rain mocking my vigil. Days stretched, texts sparse, his voice on calls edged with fatigue. Elijah's updates painted a grim picture. Dad fading in the hospital, Mom unraveling prayers like rosaries. By Wednesday, panic clawed. No response, radio silence. I drove to Elijah's, uninvited, desperate. Finding him in the kitchen, scotch in hand, face haggard. Where is he? I demanded, voice cracking. Gone, Elijah said flat, eyes red-rimmed. Back to Ridge Valley for good. Decided this morning. Said Seattle's too loud. For him, for everything. Liar, my mind screamed, but his gaze held pity, not malice. I'm sorry, Finn. He was spiraling. Needed roots. The drive home blurred through tears, betrayal bitter as bile. Whiskers waited, oblivious, but I shattered. A vase from the shelf, shards scattering like my resolve. How could he? After everything, the nights, the promises, flirtation to love, now ash. But Thursday brought the package. No note, just Hunter's sketchpad, pages filled with us. My laugh lines, our tangled hands, a future sketched in bold strokes. Tucked inside, a bus ticket stub, Seattle return, dated tomorrow, and a scribble, not poison, just needed to rewrite solo. Wait for me? Relief flooded, hot and healing, and I clutched it close, the rain easing to mist outside. He was coming back, not fixed but fighting. For us, the story wasn't over, it was just turning the page. The bus depot in downtown Seattle was a limbo of fluorescent buzz and weary travelers. The air thick with diesel fumes and half-eaten pretzels from the vending machine. I paced platform 3, ticket stub crumpled in my fist, Hunter's sketchpad tucked under my arm like a talisman. Whiskers was with the neighbor, Mrs. Patel, who cooed over her like a grandkid. Leaving me unmoored, every announcement crackling overhead spiking my pulse. What if the bus was late? What if he wasn't on it? What if Ridge Valley had rewritten him back into silence? 3 hours ticked by in agonizing increments, my mind replaying the silence. His sparse texts about Dad's bedside vigils, Mom's tear-streaked pleas for the prodigal to stay, Elijah's calls that went unanswered on my end. I'd thrown myself into work. Frantic pitches to a queer-lit mag for illustrations. Late nights at the cafe steaming lattes with foam hearts. But sleep evaded, dreams fractured with his voice echoing, "Come back." Finally, the Greyhound lumbered in, brakes hissing like a sigh, doors wheezing open to disgorge a tide of duffels and downcast eyes. I scanned faces, haggard moms, backpackers with wanderlust tans, until he emerged, last off, bags slung over one shoulder, face gaunt but eyes alight when they found mine. Finn. The name was a lifeline, and I closed the gap, arms wrapping him tight amid the throng. His scent, pine and road dust, flooding home. "You came," I murmured into his neck, voice muffled. "Told you I would." He pulled back, hands framing my face, thumb brushing a tear I hadn't felt fall. Took everything not to run back sooner. Dad, he's stable now. Talking about selling the farm, moving to assisted living. Mom cried, but hell, it's time. I nodded, swallowing the lump, leading him to my beat-up Civic. And Elijah? Hunter slid into the passenger seat, exhaling long. We talked, really talked, about Cole, the pressure, how he's been projecting his own regrets onto me. Apologized. Said head back off if I promised to check in. No strings. Progress. The word tasted sweet as we merged into traffic, the needle piercing the overcast sky like a beacon. At the apartment, Whiskers greeted him with a figure-8 weave, purring judgment for the absence, and he scooped her up, burying his face in her fur. Missed this. Missed you. Dinner was simple. Pad Thai from the corner Thai place, eaten cross-legged on the floor amid scattered takeout containers, stories spilling like wine. Ridge Valley unfolded in his words. The hospital sterile and stark, Dad's hand frail in his, confessions traded in hushed tones about unspoken pains. The stroke a wake-up, the farm a chain. Mom baked pies, her way of mending, but it was Hunter's sketches that bridged the gaps, pages filled with family portraits that softened edges, revealed hearts. You're magic with that, I said, tracing a line of his jaw in charcoal. Ever think of going pro? He shrugged, modest but eyes warmed. Maybe. Applied to that illustration program at Cornish. Part-time nights, if they'll have a dropout like me. They will. I leaned in, kiss light as promise. Because you're worth betting on. Night deepened and we moved to the futon. Slow this time, rediscovery in every touch. His body leaner from stress but no less fervent. Lips mapped collarbones, fingers interlaced as we rocked together, gasps syncing with the city's distant hum. Afterward, he traced my ribs, voice hushed in the dark. I almost stayed, told myself it was duty, fix the farm, play the son. But every mile I saw your face. Couldn't unwrite that. Tears pricked, but I blinked them back, holding him closer. Good, because solo's overrated. Duets, that's the hit. Weeks wove into a new normal, fragile but fortified. Hunter's program accepted him. Scholarship even for emerging voices. And he juggled ink sessions with charcoal studies, coming home smudged and exhilarated. I landed the mag gig, illustrations for a coming-out anthology that felt like fate, our lives intersecting in art and ambition. Elijah became a peripheral ally. Dinners monthly, his promotion glow dimming to quiet support, whiskers shuttling between us like neutral ground. But autumn deepened, leaves carpeting Ballard streets in crimson decay, and shadows lengthened. One crisp Saturday, Hunter got the call. Dad worsening, pneumonia setting in. Go, I urged, packing his bag myself. He'll hold the fort. He lingered at the door, kissed desperate. 2 days, max. Then back for our anniversary, sort of. That first kiss. Month marker. I laughed, shoving him gentle. Go be the hero. He'll plan the cake. Ridge Valley pulled him under again. Updates trickling. Dad's lucid spells, Mom's collapse into grief. Days stretched to 4, then 7, my shifts blurring with worry. Elijah called once, he's holding it together. But the town's got teeth. Old friends whispering, Cole's truck parked too close. Jealousy flickered, but I quashed it, focusing on sketches, our story in panels, flirt to fire. Until the email, from an unknown address, subject, Truths Hunter Forgot. Attached, photos, Hunter and Cole at a bar, arms slung casual. Another, them arguing in a driveway, faces inches apart. Caption, back where he belongs. Tell Elijah his brother's not ready for your city games. My stomach plummeted, betrayal of vice. Was it Cole? Some town busybody? I forwarded to Hunter, fingers trembling. What the hell? His reply came swift. Not what it looks. Old pics dug up to stir shit. Cole's pissed, I shut him down. Coming home tonight. Love you. Relief warred with rage, but I waited. Candlelit dinner cold by 10. Then midnight. Dawn crept, empty futon mocking, until pounding at the door. Elijah, wild-eyed, rain-slicked. He's gone, Finn. Took the truck, headed east. Won't answer. Said something about needing space from all of us. No. The denial choked, but Elijah's face crumpled, mask shattering. I pushed too hard. After the pics, thought it was you, stirring drama. Confronted him. He snapped. You what? Fury boiled, shoving him back. Those were fakes, old. And you, his brother, chose doubt over trust? Elijah recoiled, voice breaking. I was scared. For him. For the family. Family. The word soured, and I grabbed my keys, storming past. Where east? Wyoming? Montana? He shrugged, defeated. Said something about the plains. Clearing his head. I drove anyway, hours blurring into I-90's endless ribbon. Radio static companion to my pleas. Voicemail after voicemail, pick up, hunt. Whatever it is, we face it. Together. Radio silence. By Spokane? Gas low and hope fraying. My phone buzzed. Not Hunter, but a text from an unknown. Plains Motel, off 90 Mile 280. Room 7. He's here. Heart slamming, I veered off, tires crunching gravel into a neon-lit relic. Faded sign flickering. Rooms like forgotten regrets. Room 7 door ajar, light spilling gold. Inside, Hunter sat on the bed, sketchpad open, charcoal dust on his jeans, face streaked with exhaustion. You followed me, he said, not accusation but wonder, standing slow. Like a bad rom-com. I crossed the threshold, door clicking shut behind. Elijah spilled. About the pics, the fight. He nodded, pulling me into an embrace that trembled. I bolted. Classic Hunter, run when the script's too heavy. Dad's dying, Cole's poison, Elijah's control. Felt like drowning. I held him fierce, lips to his hair. Then surface. With me. Always. We sank to the bed, talks tumbling deep into night. Fears unpacked like luggage. His admission of panic attacks flaring under pressure. My own confession of abandonment scars from Maine. Dawn painted the curtains peach, and he sketched us there. Tangled in motel sheets, raw and real. Back in Seattle, Elijah waited on my stoop, apology etched in posture. I fucked up. Again. Let me help, drive him to classes, whatever. Hunter, arm around my waist, met his gaze steady. One condition. No fixing. Just family. Elijah nodded, tears glinting. Deal. The betrayal mended slow, but stronger. Hunter thriving in classes. His pieces exhibited at a student show. Queer narratives in bold lines. Elijah attended, pride unfeigned, and we toasted in a quiet bar, glasses clinking to fragile freedoms. But winter loomed, snow dusting the sound, and Dad's final call came. A quiet passing in the night, Mom's voice hollow on the line. Hunter flew back alone, funeral a blur of black suits and condolences, returning hollow but healing, ashes scattered on the farm he sold swift. In the aftermath, we rebuilt, therapy for him, joint sessions for us, my novel gaining traction with a small press. Love deepened, roots intertwining like vines on the brownstone wall. Yet in quiet moments, I'd catch him staring east, planes calling faint. One night, post-love haze, he whispered, what if we go? Visit the ghosts. Face them together. I kissed his knuckles, scarred and sure. Your lead, artist. Im All-In. Spring bloomed then, tentative petals against the gray. Our story unfolding not in straight lines but curves. Flirt to forever, grumpy to grace. Spring in Seattle was a tease. Sunbreaks piercing clouds like hesitant promises. Cherry blossoms shedding pink confetti on Capitol Hill sidewalks. Hunter and I marked it with a road trip east. His idea born from those post-dusk confessions. The planes pulling like an unfinished sketch. We loaded the Civic with snacks. Whiskers in her carrier meowing protest. And Elijah's reluctant blessing. Hell drive safe? Text updates? As we kissed him goodbye on his stoop, truce solidifying into something kin. The drive was a revelation. I-90 unfolding from evergreens to sagebrush flats. Radio flipping between indie folk and static bursts. Hunter drove first, hand on my thigh, stories resurfacing. Boyhood escapades in Ridge Valley's dusty fields. First crush on the farmhand with calloused hands and quiet smiles. I shared Maine tales. Lobster boils under star-pricked skies. The beach bonfire where I'd kissed a boy and tasted salt freedom. By twilight, we hit the edge of the valley. Rolling hills gold in the dying light, windmills spinning lazy against a bruised horizon. The motel from his bolt was behind us, a relic we laughed over, but tension crept as signs for Ridge Valley multiplied. You sure about this? I asked, squeezing his hand at a stoplight. He nodded, jaw set but eyes soft. Ghosts don't haunt if you name them. The town was a time capsule. Main Street lined with feed stores and diners, pickup trucks rusting in driveways, the air sharp with hay and memory. Mom's house squatted on the outskirts. A weathered craftsman with porch swing creaking in the breeze, her silhouette in the window like a faded photograph. She met us at the door, apron dusted with flour, embrace fierce for Hunter, tentative for me. Finn, right? The city boy. Pleasure, ma'am. I smiled, handing over the pie ID baked. Apple, Maine style, cinnamon heavy. Inside smelled of pot roast and potpourri. Walls papered in florals faded yellow. Elijah arrived an hour later, flight from Seattle-Tacoma, hugging Mom tight before clapping Hunter's shoulder. Good to see you upright, bro. Dinner was a minefield navigated with care. Dad's absence a ghost at the table, stories skirting grief for lighter shores, Hunter's art show, my novel proofs arriving crisp in the mail. Mom peppered questions, her worry veiled in warmth. Seattle's rain not too much? You boys, settling? We're building, Hunter said, fork pausing, my foot nudging his under the table. Foundations. She nodded, eyes misty, and later, as Elijah and I washed dishes, she pulled Hunter aside, whispers of farm sale proceeds, his share for school. Take it, son. For the life you want. Night fell soft, us in Hunter's old room. Twin bed protesting under our weight, posters of rodeo stars curling at edges. We made love quiet, mindful of thin walls, his body arching familiar yet freighted with place. Afterward, he traced my spine, voice low. This coming back, it doesn't erase, but it loosens the grip. Good, I murmured, kissing his collarbone. Let it go. Morning brought the Real ghosts. Cole's truck idling outside the diner where we grabbed coffee, his frame leaning against faded blue paint, eyes narrowing as we approached. Hunter. And friend. Ex-friend, Hunter corrected. Chin up, my hand in his blatant. What do you want, Cole? Just checking in. Heard about your dad. Sorry. He glanced at me, smirk sly. City lives treating you? Or you slumming it back here? We're passing through, I said, even, pulse steady. Ghosts, not graves. Cole laughed. Sharp. Ghosts. Goo. Tell Elijah, I said, hey. And Hunter, doors open if Seattle's too bright. Hunter stepped closer, voice steel. Closed and locked. Move on. We walked away, his grip bruising, but by the time we hit the highway, laughter bubbled. Absurdity of it, Cole's bluster crumbling like dry earth. Freedom tasted like diner hash browns and open road. The valley shrinking in the rearview. Back in Seattle, momentum built. Hunter's thesis show at Cornish, queer cowboys in watercolor washes that drew crowds and a gallery scout. My novel launch, small, at that bookstore in Fremont, sold out, Elijah buying 3 copies, Mom sending a card with pressed wheat. Love anchored us. Days a blend of ink and deadlines. Nights tangled in sheets with whiskers hogging feet. But summer simmered conflict. Elijah's wedding announcement. A colleague from the firm. Courthouse quick but reception lavish. He asked Hunter to stand up, me to design invites, neutral ground, he said, but the ask carried weight. Family photo ops, Mom flying in, the works. Hunter agonized over it, pacing our now shared apartment. My lease up, his duffel unpacked into drawers. It's not the vows. It's the performance. Smiling for the camera while they whisper about the gay brother. Then don't perform, I said, pulling him down. Be the +1 who steals the show. He did, in a suit that hugged like sin. My hand in his through the ceremony. Toasts met with our quiet defiance. Mom cornered us during cake, eyes knowing. Proud of you both. Dad's watching, head say the same. Elijah pulled Hunter aside later, dance floor pulsing. Words lost in bass but embraced tight. Progress. Yet betrayal brewed subtle. At the after-party, a colleague, tipsy, loose-lipped, clapped Elijah's back, slurring, your brother's turning heads. That artist's life suits him. Better than chasing skirts back home. Eh? Elijah laughed it off, but the seed planted, sprouting in a late-night call to Hunter days later. Heard from Mom. Cole sniffing around the sale papers. Asking questions. You sure you're good? Hunter hung up fuming, tossing the phone. Paranoia. Again. But weeks on, the letter arrived, certified, from Ridge Valley attorney. Farm assets contested, Cole claiming verbal promises from Dad. Elijah named executor but Hunter beneficiary tangled. Elijah called frantic. It's bullshit. But he's pushing, saying you two had a thing, influenced the will. Rage ignited, Hunter's fists through drywall. My arms around him as sobs racked. He's weaponizing us. The past. We drove east again, Elijah meeting halfway in Spokane. The three of us in a sterile conference room hashing legalese with a lawyer who'd seen worse. Cole slunk in late, smug fading under scrutiny. Claims crumbling like sandcastles, no proof beyond bar talk. By adjournment, victory bitter. Assets secured, but trust fractured. Elijah faced Hunter in the parking lot. Rain spitting gray. I should have shut it down sooner. Believed you. You did, eventually, Hunter said, weary. That's enough. Homeward, Hunter silent miles, then, marriage changes him. He's scared of losing control. I nodded, hand on his. Aren't we all? Fall painted the city amber, and we leaned in, Hunter's first solo exhibit. My book tour kicking off in Portland. Love weathered deeper for the scars. But one eve, post-reading, he knelt by the futon, ring box velvet simple. Not a proposal. Promise. To keep writing this with you. Tears blurred, yes, spilling easy. Yes. Winter whispered then, snow blanketing the sound. Our story a tapestry. Flirt forged in rain, tempered by thorns, blooming defiant. Winter in Seattle wrapped the city in hush. Snowflakes drifting lazy over Puget Sound. Muffling the ferry horns to sighs. Street lamps haloed gold against the dark. Our engagement was quiet. The ring a hammered silver band etched with Cascade Peaks. Slipped on over mulled wine and a playlist of Bon Iver ballads. No fanfare, just us on the balcony of our new place. A two-bedroom in Queen and with views that stole breath. Whiskers claiming the sun-warmed sill as eternal throne. Hunter proposed with eyes like thawed rivers, voice steady. You turned my grumpy prologue into epic. Marry me, Finn. Make it our whole book. Yes, I whispered, pulling him inside to celebrate. Slow and sacred, bodies mapping vows in the flicker of candles. His name a prayer on my lips as we crested together. Afterward, tangled in quilts, he traced the band on my finger, murmur soft. Illegal freak. In a good way, maybe. He did, bursting into brunch the next Sunday at that cafe in Fremont. Mimosas spilling as he bear-hugged us both. Holy shit, brothers hitched? Mommel knit booties. He paused, eyes misting. Proud. Hunt. Of this. You. Mom called from Ridge Valley, voice crackling warm. A wedding? Spring, then lilacs blooming. He'll bake the cake. Word spread subtle, friends from the shop toasting with IPAs, my editor sending champagne for the novel sequel. But spring unfurled thorns. Cole's final jab. A lawsuit dropped but slander whispered in town ears. Reaching Elijah's firm via a loose-lipped client. Whispers of scandal, the Thorn boys, one straight arrow exec, the other, you know. Elijah weathered it stoic, but cracks showed. Cancelled dinners, texts curt. Hunter confronted him over beers at a dive in Belltown. Me waiting in the car like a getaway driver. They emerged arms slung, Elijah's laugh forced but real. Cleared the air. He's got my back, finally. Wedding plans wove in. Small, at a vineyard outside Woodinville. Vines heavy with promise. Mom and a handful of chosen kin. Hunter sketched invites. Us amid wheat waves. Rings glinting defiant. I handled vows, words pouring raw. You were the grumpy detour I never saw coming. Taught me love isn't plot armor, it's the fight, the fall, the rise. I choose you every rewrite. His, read at rehearsal under string lights. Finn, you flirted with my shadows, pulled me to light. In your eyes I found home. Not a town but a man. Forever artist to artist. The day dawned flawless. Sun gilding the hills, air sweet with earth and anticipation. Mom fussed with boutonnieres. Elijah straightened Hunter's tie with brotherly gruff. Looking sharp, little bro don't trip. Guests milled. Tattoo ink and gallery chic mingling with Elijah's suits. Whiskers snuck in a basket, meowing benediction. We stood under an arch of wildflowers, hands clasped. Officiant a friend from Cornish droning legalities until our vows cracked the air. Tears tracing cheeks, laughter bubbling through. I do, Hunter said, ring sliding home, and the kiss sealed it. Deep, unhurried, the world fading to cheers and his taste, salt and forever. Receptions spilled into twilight, tables groaning with roast and pies, dances swaying to fiddles and folk. Elijah toasted fierce, to Hunter and Finn, proof that family isn't blood alone. It's the ones who stay, who see you whole. Love you, bro. Both of you. Mom pulled us aside later, handkerchief dabbing eyes. Your dad, he'd say this is right. Hearts know the way. Night deepened, stars pricking velvet sky, and we slipped away early, vineyard paths crunching underfoot, to a cabin tucked in oaks. Inside, fire crackling, we undressed slow, rings catching flamelight, bodies joining in him, urgent then tender, his whispers vowing eternities as we shattered soft. Honeymoon was road-tripped. Down the Oregon coast, motels with ocean roar, sketches in sand, loves etched in tide pools. Back home, life resumed amplified, Hunter's gallery contract, my book tour east, touching Maine shores where I introduced him to salt winds and lobster shacks, his hand in mine a bridge across coasts. But summer scorched conflict, Elijah's firm audit, whispers amplifying to questions, his judgment, his family ties. He confided over coffee, voice edged. They're eyeing me out. Because of us. The gay brother thing. Hunter raged quiet. Let them. You're more than their suit. I nodded. Fierce. Fight it. With us. He did lawyer letters, board meetings, one with data and spine. Cleared by fall, promotion following. But the scare lingered. Elijah softer, leaning on us for barbecues and brutal honesty. Years layered then, Hunter's children's book series, Queer Kids Finding Flags in Prairies. My novels trilogy, arcs from flirt to family. Whiskers aged graceful, purring on laps as we adopted Milo, a scruffy rescue tabby who tussled with her nightly. One eve, anniversary 5th, Hunter blindfolded me to the balcony. City sprawl twinkling, a canvas unrolled. Our story, panels from catsit to vows, ending blank. Your turn, he said, charcoal in hand. Fill the rest. I drew us old, wrinkles and wisdom, hands linked on a porch swing, plains meeting sea. Love, I labeled the final frame. Undeniable. He kissed me then, slow as dawn's first light. Undeniable. Life curved on, Elijah's kid, our nephew, toddling between houses. Mom's visits, stories of Ridge Valley reborn as artist retreat. Betrayals faded to footnotes, conflicts to character. The grumpy brother now gentle patriarch. His flirt the spark that lit our world. In quiet, we'd dance to rain on windows, his head on my shoulder. Stuck babysitting a cat. Best plot twist ever. An ID laugh holding tight. Damn right, our epic.